In the November 2020 elections, everyone jokes that one clear winner emerged this election season: drugs. For the first time ever in the United States, and in Oregon to be exact, psilocybin became legalized specifically for therapeutic use, while possession and use of all drugs became decriminalized, all thanks to measures 109 and 110. Today, we are meeting with the authors of both measures, counselors and co-founders of the Oregon Psilocybin Society, Tom and Sheri Eckert, who passed 109, and drug policy reformer, former lawyer, and one of the chief petitioners of 110, Anthony Johnson. Congratulations to you all. So great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
The pathway to gaining mainstream acceptance of psychedelics has been heavily debated within psychedelic communities, whether decriminalization or a therapeutic approach is the best way to integrate these tools into society. Curious to hear from each one of you why you have chosen your specific approach.
Therapy is what we do. And so creating a therapeutic law, a therapeutic modality is really important to us. That was our focus from the very beginning. And that is what we wanted to see pass, and it did, so that we could help those who are seeking these services and don't want to do it alone, have a place to go to, a resource to be able to access. I think that would be, something that explains why we chose this particular path.
Yeah, it was our approach, but it's super important not to see this as a binary thing. It's not an either or, it's a both and.
Yes.
Decriminalization and access to psilocybin therapy are completely compatible, and that's what we're doing in Oregon.
Yeah, and for me, it started with cannabis law was my primary focus starting out, and drug policy reform, and then moving to decriminalization of all substances. And really, for me, it's a civil rights issue of people not getting arrested and having their lives hindered when they're not hurting anyone else. And I think, and this is really with 109 and 110, it was really a great kind of consensus of worlds coming together to pass meaningful reforms and really put Oregon at the forefront of ending the harmful drug war.
109 legalizes the use of psilocybin, but only in therapeutically supervised sessions. Tom and Sheri, can you talk a bit about the plan for regulating the supervised use of psilocybin?
Sure, we're entering into a 2-year development period to create access to psilocybin therapy. A lot will be going on to develop the program, including the development of training programs for facilitators, then a licensing structure to advance psilocybin service centers, as well as production facilities. So brave new world in Oregon.
Curious to hear who will certify the practitioners and according to what criteria.
From the very beginning, we have shared that we want to get this right. So we took a 5-year landing because we wanted to get it right. We literally wanted to make sure when this unfolds, we have a beautiful template that other states can use for how the education and the licensing should unfold.
The practitioners will be moving through training programs that will be approved by the Oregon Health Authority. And so part of our efforts right now is the development of the advisory board of the Oregon Health Authority. The governor ultimately appoints the members of the advisory board. We're kind of getting a head start on things and developed a committee and alliance with some other key players in the field to start thinking about those criteria, what it means to put training programs on the ground that are going to move through really competent facilitators, because that's like a key value and kind of the beating heart of this whole program.
Who will provide the psilocybin, and when can potential clients expect to actually seek treatment?
Well, the implementation period is starting right now, and it lasts for 2 years. In January of 2023, the goal is that we have every piece in place for the puzzle, and we've got some training started, so we're able to actually have some facilitators ready to go. And then in January of 2023, hopefully we'll be able to see the first psilocybin therapy sessions taking place.
So it's a licensing structure. So facilitators will have a license, service center operators, which is the facility itself where these services will take place, will be licensed, as well as cultivators and producers of psilocybin in terms of organic materials, as well as any new technologies in that arena. And there's a lot of interesting things going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Measure 109 has passed and psilocybin is still illegal federally, do you think the federal government will cooperate with state officials during the 2-year implementation period for this measure? And what's your plan if federal officials refuse to cooperate and instead possibly target providers?
Good question. Certainly our expectation that things will move in a cooperative fashion. And in fact, that was a key reason why we wrote in that 2-year development period. There's directives in there to engage with federal officials as well as state officials, the U.S. Attorney for Oregon, for example, as a starting point. And the idea there is to kind of cultivate a space of cooperative dialogue. And what that does is, allow us to educate and help the officials understand what we're trying to do, and that's address the mental health crisis here in Oregon, and just help them understand how helpful this is. Now, if there were to be any friction, we'd know about it way up front. And that's the good thing, is we have these dialogues. There will be no surprises. There will be no conflict on the ground, because we'll be way out ahead of it and we'll adjust appropriately.
110 has decriminalized all drugs and is using marijuana tax revenues to fund drug addiction treatments. Can you share why you believe voters have chosen to and offer expanded treatment programs instead of arrests, and why you believe this is the best path forward?
People realizing that change is possible, and real understanding across the state, across demographics, that the war on drugs, what we've been doing, is not working. If you look at the world and what's happening, it's easy to see that the status quo has not worked. And then I think that drug use used to be seen among certain segments of the population. And then over time, drug use is just, it's something that touches everybody's life. Either it's drug use or drug addiction, no matter where you live, no matter how wealthy you are, what kind of upbringing you've had, your education, addiction just touches everybody's lives. And so I think that it really opened people's minds that, Measure 110, ending the arrest for personal drug use and then funding treatment, really is about people and not about the drugs. It's easy to demonize drugs. It's harder to demonize people. And I think in the end, people got the sense, if I had a drug addiction problem, or if a loved one of mine has a drug issue, what do I want for them? Do I want them arrested, jailed, and not given any treatment? Or do I want them to, one, be able to go along with their lives if they're not hurting anybody else and don't need treatment, but if they need treatment, that treatment will be provided for them.
Do you anticipate an increase in the use of now decriminalized substances with 110?
I don't expect a increase in usage. For one, I think that people are not honest about their drug use when they're surveyed, but I think more people will be honest now that it's been decriminalized, which will lead to better health results. And I think if you look at Portugal and other countries that have similar policies, they have not seen an increase in use. So I don't expect an increase in use in Oregon either.
How will this measure impact arrests and policing of drug use?
Oregon currently arrests nearly 9,000 people every year for personal drug use, and Measure 110 will end over 90% of drug arrests in Oregon, which have disproportionately been targeted towards communities of color.
Do you think the federal government will intervene to overturn this policy? Is there any chance of that happening?
I don't see the federal government intervening. The federal government tends to not waste resources on personal drug use and sticks to trafficking offenses.
Do you think other states will be using 110 as a model for decriminalization?
Other states will definitely follow Oregon's lead, just as Portugal was very influential in Oregon's law. Other states, I expect Washington, California, Colorado to be the next few states that we'll see over the next 2 to 4 years follow Oregon's model.
It's so wonderful having you all with us today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
letting us
Really
be
appreciate
a
it.
part
Really
of your
appreciate it.
publication. Yeah,
Thank you for having us.